Hey guys! In this video I'm gonna show you how to make this lovely paper quilling hydrangea using 1mm paper strips. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and if you find this video interesting, like it and share it with your friends. To begin with, you're gonna need to cut a lot of paper strips because we're gonna use many of them for this hydrangea flower. If you're interested in how to cut your own paper strips, I've put a link in the description below where I share a video of how I cut my paper strips. As you can see, each little flower of the hydrangea has 4 petals. 3 are equal in size and the 4th one is just a little bigger. First, I'm gonna show you how to make the little petals. For each of them, I'm gonna use 2 paper strips. You start by inserting the paper strip in your quilling tool, and you simply roll gently so that it doesn't fall off your tool. And you roll till the end until you make a tight coil, but don't glue at the end. We're not gonna use any glue here. We're simply gonna just roll over this paper strip. When you reach the end, gently take it off of your quilling tool . And pull a bit so that you can make it really tight. And then add a little bit of glue and seal it. Gently press over the tight coil with your finger and your fingernail to make it smoother, but make sure not to scratch it. And I'm now gonna show you how to make the bigger petal. For this one, you're gonna use 2 paper strips and a half. I'm gonna use fast forward here because you already know the process. The reason why I'm using a toothpick is because I like that it gives a smaller center to my petals. To shape the petals, just press with your finger in the middle of this petal, gently, again gently, and pinch it on one of the sides. But be careful when you do this because working with 1mm paper strips is a bit more difficult, so don't give up if you don't succeed from the first try. You can also pinch it just a little bit on the other side. Repeat the same process with the other petals that you will make. And this is a close-up view of how your petals should look. After we have finished making all the petals, we can start the process of painting. We will need a small container and some ink. I'm using blue and red here. So I'm adding a little bit of water, and then a couple of drops of red and a couple of drops of blue. I'm adding only a little bit of paint at first because I want to make a lighter hue on my first petals. You'll also need a paper towel so that you can try out your ink on it and see if you like it or not. Here I didn't really like my color, so I added more red to make it more warm. Now I see that it's a better hue, so I'm gonna start painting. You can start on the front side and then on the margins of the petal and then on the back side. This is no rule, it's not like you have to do it exactly like this, front, margin and back. You can do it however way you want, whichever way works best for you. You'll also need some parchment paper so that you can place your painted petals on that paper to dry. If you find that you're not pleased with some of your petals, you can add an extra coat of paint on top of them, like you see me doing here. Now I'm gonna start making some darker hues, so I'm gonna add some more ink to the ink and water that I already have in my container. You just need to play around with your inks until you find those combinations that you like, of lighter hues and darker hues. And always try them out on your paper towel to see if you like the color or not. After you finish painting all of your petals, just set them aside to dry for a few hours. And don't worry if your fingers have gotten messy and your container, your paintbrush and even your desk. You can scrub them off with some baking soda. It works really well. So this is how your petals will look once they are dry. First, I just want to shape them a little bit, so you can watch how I do this. I just take each one and I pinch it to the side. Repeat this process until you finish all of your petals. Now I'm gonna add a layer of glue on the back side of each petal so that it doesn't get loose over time. Sometimes it can be tedious to do this for each little petal, but the end result is worth the effort. So when you see that the glue has dried on the back side of the petals, you can start shaping them like this. Make a good pinch on one of the sides, and on the other side, just a very small pinch. Repeat this process until you finish all of your petals. After shaping all of the petals, we can start gluing them to each other to make the small flowers of the hydrangea. As I've said before, 3 of the petals are smaller and of equal size, and the 4th one is just a little bigger. So first I'm gonna take 2 of the smaller petals and I'm gonna glue them to each other. Afterwards, I set them aside so that the glue dries, and I continue gluing other petals 2 by 2. Here the glue has dried in the middle, and I'm gonna glue the 3rd petal which is of equal size as these two. This third petal will be glued on top of the first two. So I'm adding some glue on the back side, and then I glue it on those first two petals. When the glue has dried, I continue with my last petal, the fourth one, which is the biggest. This last petal will be glued underneath the first three. You can press the little flower a little bit with your finger to make sure that the glue sticks, but make sure to not make any scratches with your fingernail. Then repeat the same thing with the rest of your petals until you make as many flowers as you need. Here I'm going to show you how to make the tiny middle of the flowers. For this, you can use one of the paper strips that you used to make the petals. So I'm using my toothpick again, and I roll the paper strip only about a couple of times around the toothpick, because I want to make really small centers for the flowers. You can see that these small coils are round, and I want to make them oval. So I just place it on my table and press gently with my finger on it until it becomes oval. It should look like this. And lastly, I take each one of these small coils and glue them to the center of the little flowers. Having a pair of tweezers comes in very handy for this step. To make the stems of the flowers, I'm gonna use wire, crepe paper, and glue. So I add some glue at the top of the crepe paper and then begin to wrap it around the wire. Make sure to add a bit of glue here and there as you go, so that the crepe paper sticks to the wire. I'm not wrapping the wire all the way to the end, but you'll see the reason why later on in the video. Then continue to make as many stems as you need. I made around 25 for the little flowers of my hydrangea. Here I'm gonna show you how to make the cups of the stems on which the little flowers will be glued. I take a green strip of paper and I'm gonna cut it in 3 even parts. So here I'm just making a tight coil and sealing it at the end with glue. I'm using the quilling needle to make a good round center to the tight coil because I'm gonna insert the stem through this hole. With the help of the back of a paintbrush, I'm gonna shape my coil in the form of a cup. Then you can add some glue and let it dry. So this is the part where I insert the stem through the hole in the cup. I'm gonna make a loop at the end so that the stem doesn't fall out. And then I'm adding some glue to secure it to the cup. After finishing assembling the stems and cups, you can start gluing them to the back side of the little flowers. Keep them pressed for a few seconds between your fingers to make sure that they stick to each other. Then you can continue gluing the other flowers. And set each one aside for a couple of minutes so that the glue completely dries. Here, as you can see, I've already twined some of my flowers together and formed a main stem. The reason why I didn't wrap the wires completely with crepe paper is because it's easier to twine them to each other when they are unwrapped, and especially when they are so many, and it also makes a smaller stem of the main flower. If the stems would have been wrapped completely in crepe paper, it would have created a chunkier main stem. After I finished twining all the flowers to the main stem, I start wrapping crepe paper over them to hide all the wire. This part, I have to admit, is my least favorite because it's just so tedious to go in between all the little stems of the flowers to hide every trace of wire. But like I've said before, the end result is worth the effort. Here you can see that I've made another stem for the hydrangea so that the branch will be longer, and I'm simply twining my flower around it like so. And I'm also gonna use this wire to fix the stem better and to make the branch more firm. Then I continue to wrap the crepe paper over the wire. And of course, last but not least, I've also made some leaves for my hydrangea. I've added a link up here to a video where I share how I make my paper leaves. So be sure to check it out if you're interested. You can also find this link in the description below the video. So I start shaping and adding the leaves to my flower. After that, I wrap some floral tape around the branch to hide the stems of the leaves. You can either use brown floral tape to wrap the main stem, or green floral tape, or even crepe paper, whatever works best for you. As a last step, you can play around with the flowers of your hydrangea and position them in whatever way looks best to your eye. Thank you for watching this video. If you would like to see more quilling related content in the future, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and like this video and share it with your friends.